My name is Grace Callahan, 33 years old. A military doctor who has just returned to Nashville after 9 months of humanitarian service in Syria. When I saw my daughter, Harper, I thought every loss had been worth it. I had sent $2,000 each month to my parents for them to take care of her while I was away. But the moment I asked, "Was the money I sent enough for you?" Sweetheart Harper looked up, eyes puzzled. "What money?" "Mom." The kitchen went silent. My mother froze, still holding the cocoa spoon midair. My father cleared his throat, avoiding my eyes. I knew instantly something was wrong. Before I tell you what happened after that moment, let me know where and what time you're watching this video from. And hit like and subscribe if you want to know where that money actually went. Now, let's go back to that evening, the night I discovered that the real battlefield wasn't in Syria. It was inside my own home. The scent of baked apples filled the kitchen, blending with cinnamon and warm yellow light. I used to think that smell meant peace. Now it only made my chest tighten. Harper sat close beside me, her head on my shoulder, her hair carrying the faint smell of wood smoke. I wrapped my arms around her, warmth and strangeness tangling together. I looked around new kitchen, freshly painted walls, new curtains. In the corner, my mother Carolyn was setting pies on the table, the gold bracelet on her wrist catching the light. "Our house looks different," I said. She smiled. "You're home. It should look nice." My father, Dean, sat watching TV, gripping the remote so tightly his knuckles turned white. Some houses shine brighter only to hide the people fading inside them. Dinner was neatly arranged, every dish more than enough. Harper sat beside me, her rough little hands folded politely on the table. "Are you doing well at school?" "Yes, Mom. I just work a little on weekends." I set my fork down. "Work?" my mother cut in. "Just to teach her the value of money. Nothing serious." I looked at Harper old sweater. Uneven buttons. Small scratch on her wrist. "Do you like working?" She nodded, but her eyes didn't smile. I turned to my mother. "If you were using the money I sent, Harper wouldn't need to work at all." Her smile didn't fade, but her gaze cracked. A liar doesn't need to shout. They only need to hold a smile longer than normal. The next morning, the clinking of a spoon against a ceramic cup echoed softly. "Your father's medicine got more expensive. Tuition, utilities, everything costs more now." I replied quietly. "Dad has full insurance coverage." She didn't look at me, just poured more milk into the cup and stirred harder. Harper came down the stairs with her backpack. "I'm going to work now." "Mom." "Work. This early Southern brew opens the morning shift. I make coffee there. It's fun." My mother spoke calmly. "She enjoys it." I could hear nothing but my own heartbeat, steady, then uneven. Sometimes what terrifies you most isn't the lie itself, but the way people tell it like it's an obvious truth. That afternoon, I cleaned my old room. In the drawer, I found an empty envelope stamped with the bank's logo. In the corner, it read, "For Harper." The paper was wrinkled, edges torn like evidence hidden in haste. My mother walked past the doorway and stopped. "Don't dig through things, Grace. Some truths, you're better off not knowing." I looked her straight in the eye. "I need to know everything that belongs to me." Her gaze faltered. Her lips stayed shut, but her hand lingered on the doorframe. Behind me, the wall clock ticked, each sound dry and sharp, like the monitor in an ER seconds before a heart flatlines. Silence can sometimes scream louder than any confession. That night, the guests had gone. Light from inside reflected on the window and shimmered against the new SUV parked in the driveway. I sat alone, opening my military ledger. On every page, a red bank stamp, $2,000. For Harper's care. 9 times. Regular, not a single month missing. I checked my phone, the bank records, all said Successfully completed. Upstairs. Harper washed her sweater by hand. Drops of water hit the floor one by one. Like rain. Each drop sounded like a question I hadn't yet dared to ask. If the money arrived, and Harper was still struggling, then where had it gone? I looked around the gleaming house, the light glinting off my face, off my mother's bracelet, and off the truth that was about to explode. Morning light from Tennessee streamed through the kitchen window, tinting the white porcelain plates in gold. My mother Carolyn was slicing fruit. Each apple cut so thin, and even it looked measured with a ruler. Did you sleep well? Grace, I did. Just felt a little cold. Maybe the heating system's too old. I glanced toward the corner, where a brand new electric heater glowed the cord. Still had a Best Buy sticker on it. My father walked in holding the morning newspaper and a new smartphone. Harper had already left for school without breakfast. She eats at school, my mother said quickly, as if afraid I might ask more. I nodded, my eyes landing on a bottle of imported orange juice and a carton of organic eggs on the counter. The food looked expensive, yet Harper's plate remained empty. Sometimes, what shines brightest in a home isn't the light. It's how hard people try to make everything look perfect. At noon, I used the excuse of organizing the storage room to look for my luggage, but in truth, I was looking for what my parents were hiding. The desk drawer held stacks of papers, bank statements, bills, and flyers. I turned each one over. A $4,900 receipt from Westbridge Home Furnishings, an order form for a gold watch, a delivery notice from a car dealership. I took notes carefully in my notebook, every number, every date. They all matched the exact months I had sent money home. The door creaked open softly. My father stood there, his voice gravelly. What are you looking for? The old first aid kit. There isn't one. Your mother threw it away. His eyes darted elsewhere. His hand gripped the doorframe tight. Evidence doesn't lie. Only the person holding it chooses silence. By late afternoon, Harper came home. She hurried to hang her jacket, hiding a scrape on her arm. What happened? It's nothing. I slipped carrying a tray at work. Work Southern Brew. Mom. The coffee shop. You know I have a part-time job. I exhaled slowly, keeping my tone steady. Do you enjoy it? It's okay. Grandma said if I want to take the art class, I should pay for it myself. I'm saving up. My heart clenched. I sat beside Harper, brushing her tangled hair that still smelled faintly of coffee. Sweetheart, do you know that I send money to your grandparents every month to take care of you? She looked up, surprised. What money? Mom, I smiled gently, but my chest sank. It's okay. I'll just check my records later. The cuter I stayed, the louder the truth became, hiding in the pauses no one bothered to fill. That night, I stopped by Molly's apartment, my younger sister. Her place was small but filled with new furniture, warm light, and the scent of wood candles drifting through the air. Welcome home, Mom said. You're doing better. Yeah. Over there. People don't really get to change their sofa 3 times a year like Mom does. Molly gave a nervous laugh and poured some wine. She just likes redecorating. And you? Did you help them out while I was gone? Sometimes, you know? Family stuff better left alone. Alone? You mean silent? She actually went silent. On her wrist, I noticed a gold bracelet, the exact same design as Mom's. The light caught it, casting a thin reflection across the wine glass, sharp and cold as a blade. No one in my family truly wanted to look me in the eye, not even while smiling. Night, he said at me desk. The lamp casting shadows across pages filled with cramped handwriting, columns labeled transfer date, purchase date, and transaction value, all matching perfectly, like lab results repeating the same abnormal indicator. From the hallway, I heard my mother's voice on the phone, soft but clear enough. Yes. Book another tour in February. The price just dropped. She doesn't know anything. I closed the notebook. a chill running down my spine. Opening my laptop, I logged into my bank account. Every transfer showed up on time. Not a single cent missing. Only one thing was missing: trust. I looked toward Harper's room. She was asleep. Her tiny hands curled tight as if holding on to the last bit of safety she had. I picked up my pen and wrote in my journal tomorrow. I'll verify everything, starting with the bank. I've spent years identifying causes of death on battlefields. Now, I have to find out who killed trust inside this house. The next morning, the sky over Nashville was gray, like a thin layer of dust spread across the car window. I drove to Harper's school, the same old red brick building where I had paid tuition the previous year. The air smelled of chalk and damp paper. Her teacher, Ms. Reynolds, greeted me with a hesitant look. "I'm glad you're back safe." "Dr. Callahan, thank you. I just wanted to check how Harper's been doing lately." She opened her laptop, the blue screen reflecting off her glasses. "Harper's a sweet kid. But these past few months, her grades have dropped quite a bit. She's been late 3 times in 1 week." I looked at the chart, each red bar like a heartbeat slipping lower. "What's the reason?" She said she works morning shifts. I told her to rest. But she said she needs to save for her art class. My hand brushed the wooden desk, cold to the touch. "Thank you. I understand." As I walked down the hallway, the students' drawings swayed in the breeze, among all the colors. I recognized Harper's messy lines, a house, with light shining through only one single window. Truth never comes crashing down from a liar's mouth. It leaks out from the cracks where people are too tired to keep hiding their pain. Southern Brew Cafe sat on the corner of Jefferson Street, its sign half peeled. When I stepped inside, the doorbell chimed softly. The air smelled of roasted coffee and humming grinders. An older woman with silver hair, Mrs. Garcia, looked up. "You must be Harper's mom." "Right. Yes. How long has she been working here?" "Almost half a year. She's good. Never takes a tip. Says, 'You already pay me enough.'" She wiped the counter slowly, steadily. One time it rained hard, and I told her to stay home. But she came anyway. Said, "If I don't come, someone else will have to work a double shift." I smiled, though my lips felt dry. "Thank you for looking after her, Mrs. Garcia." Shook her head. "No, she's the one who reminds me there's still kindness in this world." I stepped outside. The cold wind slapped my face. Behind me, the doorbell rang again, faint, like a heartbeat that hadn't stopped yet. Sometimes strangers understand your child better than those who share your blood. That afternoon, I visited Lieutenant Martin's old office, once my comrade in the medical corps. He now worked as a financial advisor for veterans. "Grace, it's been ages. I need to verify a few transfers. Same account. $2,000 each month. For 9 months straight." He typed quickly. Numbers flashed on the screen one after another. "The receiving account is Carolyn Callahan." The funds were withdrawn almost immediately, mostly at furniture and travel stores. A few suspicious charges: a car purchase, jewelry. I nodded, feeling the chill spread through my chest. "Can you print everything? Dates, times, and locations?" Of course. When I held the stack of papers, my hands trembled, not from anger, but from how perfectly everything matched. Each number was like a tiny bullet, hitting right where I used to feel safe. I didn't need emotion anymore. Now I had data, and data doesn't lie. That evening, I stopped by the small house of Kate Reynolds, the mother of Harper's best friend, Lily. She opened the door with a warm smile but guarded eyes. "I'm sorry to drop by unannounced." "It's fine. I suppose you're here about Harper." We sat in the living room, the air smelling of apple pie and warm fabric. "Harper's wonderful," she said softly. "But lately I've been worried. She refuses to go out, saying she has to work. When I tried to pay for her movie ticket, she said. I don't want to trouble anyone. My grandparents are struggling already. I turned away. A framed family photo hung on the wall, real smiles lit by golden light. Kate placed her hand gently over mine. She loves you so much. You know? She said you're the bravest person she's ever known. I smiled, but my eyes stung. Thank you for telling me the truth. Every lie told to keep the peace steals a bit of light from a child's eyes. That night, I sat in the living room. The desk lamp glowed over a thick stack of printed records, the paper still warm from the printer. On the table were my notes: school, cafe, bank, witness statements. Beside them lay Harper's small necklace glinting under white light, the only gift she still had from the day her father died. I labeled the file Callahan Private Record. Outside, the wind hissed through the maple trees, carrying the damp chill of winter. I knew I would stay silent no longer. I wrote the final line in my journal December 20th. Everything is clear now. I will no longer send money to my family. This Christmas, I bring no gifts. I bring the truth. The lamplight reflected off the desk, cold and sharp as a scalpel. I once saved lives with these hands. Now, I will use them to dissect the lies of my own bloodline. Christmas morning. Sunlight streamed through the red curtains of the Nashville house, painting long golden streaks across the wooden floor. The entire Callahan home smelled of waffles, pine wood, and the expensive perfume my mother always sprayed before hosting a party. Everything sparkled so much that it felt fake. My father adjusted his tie in front of the mirror, murmuring Christmas greetings like an actor rehearsing lines. My mother checked the tree, rearranging each gift box as if the only thing that mattered was how perfect the wrapping looked. I stood on the porch, watching it all like a stage set. Harper helped her grandmother hang a few more ornaments, her hands trembling slightly as she brushed the blinking lights. No one said a word about the months she spent working. No one asked if I'd been sleeping well. They only talked about the color of ribbons. Not everyone wears a mask to hide shame. Some wear it to look prettier when they lie. At noon, Julia, my younger sister, arrived, wearing a white fur coat, her husband on her arm, and a Cartier necklace glittering at her throat. Grace, look at this bracelet, she chirped, her voice bright as a glass bell. He gave it to me, limited edition. Mother clapped her hands with delight. So beautiful. You really know how to pick a man. I looked around the room at the approving eyes, the rehearsed smiles. And you? Grace, Julia asked, glancing at me sideways. What did you bring this Christmas? I answered lightly. A gift someone might find hard to swallow. The room chuckled, thinking I was joking. Julia tilted her head, that painted smile never fading. You're still as funny as ever. I smiled back, a thin one, but inside, every word etched itself into me like a fine blade. Christmas is the day people wrap their lies in silk paper. Lunch began, the clinking of forks and knives, the shimmer of red wine under candlelight, and the conversation danced around safe topics: holidays, weather, and gas prices. Harper sat beside me, silent. She picked up a piece of potato, then set it down again. Eat, sweetheart, my mother said sweetly. Your mom probably doesn't cook as well as I do. Her tone was soft, but her words had thorns. I took a sip of wine, the bitterness coating my throat. She's doing fine, I said, even when eating only what was truly paid for with her own money. The table froze for a second before my father broke into laughter. You always talk like a soldier, so disciplined it ruins everyone's appetite. Maybe, I replied with a faint smile. Pouring more wine, no one noticed. My knuckles had turned white from how tightly I was gripping the glass. Joy only survives in a room where no one dares to ask real questions. Night. The golden light dimmed across the dining table like a layer of varnish. Nat King Cole's jazz floated through the air, mingling with the sound of silverware, glasses clinking, and hollow small talk. Harper helped her grandmother arrange dessert plates, her hands trembling slightly. I watched her, a mix of tenderness and guilt tightening in my chest. Julia showed pictures from her Europe trip, boasting about each stop. Mother laughed. Father nodded. I stayed quiet, observing every face, every movement. No one dared hold my gaze for longer than a few seconds. Between the music and the laughter, I could hear my heartbeat slow, steady, like the background score of something inevitable. Silence is the weapon of those who are certain they're right. When everyone had gone to bed, I sat alone in the living room. The Christmas tree still glowed, its blinking lights reflected in the window pane like hundreds of tiny eyes watching. I opened my small notebook and began to write, not for anyone else, but for myself. December 24th. They laughed. They toasted. And they hugged. They think I've forgiven them. But tomorrow, they'll see a different Grace. One who no longer fears being called ungrateful for speaking the truth. I closed the notebook and set it on the table. The wall clock ticked steadily. Harper stepped out. Hair messy. Voice drowsy. Mom, are you still awake? Just a little longer? Sweetheart. I tucked her blanket around her and kissed her forehead. Tomorrow. All you need to do is stay close to me. As she walked away, I looked into the mirror at a calm face and eyes sharp as a blade. Tomorrow. This Christmas we'll have 2 celebrations, one for them and one for the truth. Before I tell you what no one at that dinner table dared to say, if you're still here, comment. Want and guess what I said that night, so I know you're still with me. Then listen to what I did. Candlelight flickered against the ceiling, casting, shifting shadows across every face. The Christmas tree reached almost to the top. Decorated so perfectly, it felt emotionless. The long table was covered in white silk. Champagne glasses filled, and soft carols drifted in the air. I stood up, holding my glass. Thank you all for being here. It's been a hard year, but at least today we're together. My mother smiled brightly. My father clapped softly, and Julia lifted her glass. I touched the rim of mine but didn't drink. Before we begin dinner, I said slowly, I just want to confirm one small thing. The table went still. During the 9 months I was away, I sent $2,000 each month to my parents for Harper. That's $18,000 in total. The air changed instantly. Julia's glass froze mid-air. My father cleared his throat. My mother looked down at her plate. I just want to ask. I set my glass down. Where is that $18,000 now? No one moved their forks. The Christmas music still played, but the melody had turned into an accusation. My father forced a chuckle. You misunderstood. We used some of it for her expenses. You know, raising a child isn't cheap. Really, I pulled out a thick folder bound in black velvet. Here are the expenses: furniture, jewelry, a car, and cruise tickets, all purchased during those same 9 months. I have the bank records. Silence. The candlelight glinted off the papers. Cold and sharp. Julia scoffed lightly. Grace, you're overreacting. They were just trying to help you. You should be grateful instead of resentful. I looked at her. Voice low and even. Grateful for teaching my daughter that adults can lie when it's convenient for them. No one laughed now. Harper lowered her head. I saw her small hand clutching the napkin tight. I turned to my parents. I used to think love meant sacrifice. But love should never look like taking what doesn't belong to you, especially when the one it's stolen from is a child. It wasn't my words that silenced them. It was when they realized for the first time I wasn't speaking to plead anymore. The air thickened. Julia's voice sliced through, thin and sharp. This is Christmas, not a courtroom. Maybe try being polite for once. Yes, I replied softly, but this is also my home. And the first rule of politeness should be respect for the truth. Harper suddenly stood up, her chair crashing backward. I want to speak. Her voice trembled, but it was clear. Everyone turned toward her. I've been working at the cafe every weekend. she said. I sold my iPad and Dad's necklace. I didn't tell Mom because I didn't want her to be hurt. My mother covered her mouth, her face pale. My father started to say something, but Harper continued. I used to think Grandma and Grandpa did it because Mom was poor, but now I know they just thought she wouldn't dare ask for it back. No one looked at each other. I placed a hand on Harper's shoulder. You don't need to apologize. Sweetheart, you did the right thing. The whole room seemed to stop breathing. It was the first Christmas my daughter was allowed to tell the truth, and I knew that was the only miracle I still believed in. I placed the file on the table and opened it to the first page. This is an official proposal, I said, calm and steady. You will return the entire amount, through a signed legal agreement, with a witness, and you will send a written apology to Harper by hand. My father slammed his palm against the table. You're threatening to sue your own parents. No, I said, meeting his eyes. I'm giving you the chance to keep your dignity. Julia let out a nervous laugh. You sound like a prosecutor. I turned to her. No, Julia. But if I have to, I know how to write an indictment. My mother's eyes filled with tears. Grace, we're family. How can you be so cold? I answered quietly. Because this family was where I first learned that silence can be a sin. I didn't have to raise my voice. When the truth comes with evidence, their silence is louder than any scream. The room went utterly still. The ticking clock marked every second, like a countdown. Harper stood beside me, holding my hand. I gathered the file, straightened the edges, and placed it before my father. Tomorrow, my lawyer will send the settlement papers. If you sign them, this ends quietly. If not, we'll see each other in court. Julia opened her mouth, but her husband pulled her back. My father bowed his head, his shoulders trembling slightly. I left the table, each step echoing across the cold tile floor like a gavel. Harper watched me go. I smiled at her. We're done. Sweetheart. I took my coat and stepped onto the porch. The Nashville air was cold, but it was easier to breathe than any room I'd just left. Behind me, the candles still burned, the only real light left after all the false ones went out. Tomorrow, they'll sign, or face the law. The next morning, the Callahan house was silent, as if the storm from last night had never happened. No music, no scent of dessert, only the faint smell of burnt wood lingering in the fireplace. My father sat on the porch, holding a cup of cold coffee, his eyes cloudy like morning fog. My mother moved slowly in the kitchen, slicing vegetables like someone half awake in a dream. Outside, Harper sat in the yard, doodling across a sheet of paper, her pencil rising and falling like the breath of a child finally freed from a weight. I walked through each room, the crooked family photos, the extinguished candles, the wrinkled tablecloth. There was no victory here, only silence. The silence after a storm always echoes louder than thunder. By noon, I was packing my suitcase when I heard a soft knock. My mother stood there, no makeup, no trace of Chanel perfume. In her hands was a folded piece of paper, her handwriting trembling. Grace, I don't know where to start, she whispered. But this is for Harper. I unfolded the paper. The handwriting was thin and broken. I'm sorry. Harper, I forgot that love is not a privilege. I will return everything, and hope it's not too late to return trust. I folded the paper back, placed it on the table, and said quietly, the truth is, Mom, you just did the hardest part. She nodded slightly, eyes glistening, then turned away. Sometimes, handwriting becomes a confession when tears won't fall. That afternoon, I sat in Mr. Down, Lewis's law office, a bright, white room smelling of printer ink and weak coffee. The settlement lay before me. I read each line carefully. Party B agrees to repay the full amount of $18,000 US dollars within 6 months. It wasn't a victory, just balance being restored. "Are you all right, mister?" Lewis asked. "I'm fine," I replied, then smiled faintly. "Justice doesn't taste sweet. It just tastes clean." He nodded, signed the document, and handed me a copy. The paper felt cold but light, like air. When truth bears a signature, every excuse becomes nothing but an echo. That evening, Harper and I had dinner in our new apartment, just 2 people. 2 bowls, and a single candle. Neither of us mentioned the past. She talked about school, about wanting to study interior design. I nodded. "You're good with space. You notice things others overlook." Harper smiled, her first real smile since Christmas. I opened a small bottle of wine and poured half a glass. The scent of grapes mingled with vanilla candlelight. We sat in silence for a long while, not from discomfort, but peace. And I realized I had never truly eaten in peace until that moment. We weren't celebrating victory. We were learning how to eat in peace. Night. I was getting ready for bed when I saw a small note on the table. The first line, written in blue ink, was slightly messy, "Mom. Thank you for speaking for me. I'm not afraid of Grandma and Grandpa anymore. I'm not angry either. I just want to be a good person like you." Below the last line, Harper had drawn a small circle inside it. 2 hands holding each other. I touched the ink, still slightly wet. Outside the window, the Nashville wind whispered, carrying the soft chime of wind bells touching. I took a deep breath, turned off the lamp, and for the first time, I slept without carrying a battlefield inside me. Not every war ends with an explosion. Some end with a single, steady breath. 3 months had passed since Christmas. On a Friday afternoon, the phone rang while I was making coffee in our new apartment. The name Mom lit up on the screen for the first time since that night. Her voice was hoarse and small. "Grace, if you have time, come for dinner tonight. Not to talk about money, just to eat." I stayed silent for a few seconds, hearing the faint clinking of cutlery on plates in the background. "Is Harper invited too?" "Of course. I miss her." I looked at Harper. She nodded, calm and steady. "Mom, you should go. Some words can only be heard when people are quiet enough to speak." I sighed, staring at the cup of coffee steaming in my hand, dark, strong, but reflecting light from the window. Not every open door can be trusted, but some are opened just to see who has the courage to walk through. Dusk fell over Nashville. Streetlights glowed against rows of leafless trees. My family's old house still stood, but it wore a new face. No more extravagant lights. No towering Christmas tree. Just a soft amber glow from inside. A half-open door. And the faint smell of toasted bread. My father opened the door. He looked thinner. Shoulders slumped. The gray in his hair more visible. "Come in. Grace. It's cold." His voice was lower now, but no longer commanding. My mother was in the kitchen. She looked up as I entered and gave a gentle smile. "No wine tonight," she said. "Just chicken soup and bread. You like things simple." Harper glanced around, whispering, "Everything feels smaller now. Doesn't it?" "Mom," I nodded. "That's all right. Small is enough if it's real." The house hadn't changed, but the people inside it had. Dinner was quiet, just the sound of spoons touching plates and steady breathing. After Harper went out to the garden, my mother sat up straight, hands clasped together. "These past 3 months, I've been reading the Bible every day," she said slowly. Not to atone, just to remember that I once knew what was right. My father sat across, eyes avoiding mine. I was wrong. We were greedy and cowardly. "Thank you for not letting it stay hidden." I set my spoon down, speaking softly. "I don't need apologies. I just want to know how long these words will stay alive this time." My mother gave a sad smile. "Until we finally learn how to live honestly." I looked around the table, No silk cloth. No candles. Only a cracked porcelain plate, mended with golden glue. I touched the seam lightly and said, "The Japanese call this art kintsugi. They use gold to repair broken pottery. They don't hide the cracks. They make them part of the story. Sometimes the hardest thing isn't saying I'm sorry. It's learning to live with your cracks." The door opened quietly. Harper walked in, holding a folded sheet of old paper. "Grandma," she said softly, "I've kept this since the day you gave it to Mom. My mother took it." Eyes wet, Harper continued, "I'm not angry anymore. I kept your letter because it reminds me that adults can change if they really want to." The room fell silent. My mother smoothed the creases of the paper and looked at my father. Then at me. "You've raised a good child." "Grace." I shook my head. "No. I just tried not to teach her how to stay silent." Harper stepped forward and hugged her grandmother, an awkward but warm embrace. My father turned away, wiped his glasses, and smiled faintly. Forgiveness doesn't make people forget. It only makes memory hurt less. Dinner ended when the clock struck 9. I stood up and wrapped Harper's scarf around her neck. My father came closer, his voice rough. "You can come by any time you want." I smiled. "When this house lives by truth, I'll come back as before." My mother walked us to the door, her hand trembling slightly as she held mine. "We'll try," she whispered. I looked at her, and for the first time, there was no pride in her eyes. Only an honest kind of tiredness. On the porch, the early spring wind brushed against us. Harper ran down the steps, then turned back. "Mom, I think we can forgive without forgetting." I nodded gently. "Yes. And that's how we begin again. Forgiveness doesn't turn back time. It just lets you walk forward without carrying a knife in your hand." Mornings in Nashville have a very particular kind of light, not harsh, but warm, as if the sun understands that people need gentleness to begin again. I woke earlier than usual. On the table, a steaming cup of black coffee sat beside a folder of patient files, veterans needing rehabilitation therapy. After the Lunar New Year, I opened a small clinic and named it Second Breath. Harper had already gone to school. Before leaving, she'd left a note on the fridge. "Don't forget breakfast. I love you, Mom, and I'm proud of you." I smiled. A real smile, effortless, quiet. When pain stops being a wound, it becomes a scar, and scars are proof that we survived. That afternoon, in the mailbox downstairs, I found an envelope with no return address. I recognized my mother's handwriting, immediately shaky, slightly slanted. The letter contained only 3 lines. "My daughter, your father has replanted the garden. I'm learning how to stay silent at the right time." "Mom." I didn't reply. I simply folded the letter and placed it in a small wooden box, the one where I keep things that can't be erased but don't need to be displayed. Not every apology needs an answer. Some just need to be read and understood. Forgiveness isn't always saying "I forgive you." Sometimes, it's simply no longer needing them to say anything at all. The following week, I met a new patient, a 20-year-old former reserve soldier suffering panic attacks after an explosion during training. She sat silently, hands clenched, unable to meet my eyes. "I can't sleep," she said. "Every time I close my eyes, I hear the screams." I said nothing for a moment. No words could heal a memory that deep. Then I told her, "I used to hear those screams too, but they don't pull me back anymore. They remind me that I can still hear." She looked up, meeting my gaze for the first time. And in that moment, I realized what I was doing wasn't just therapy. I was helping others walk through what I had once survived. When we heal others, we are stitching ourselves back together. On Friday evening, Harper came home holding a certificate, honor student of the semester. She placed it on the kitchen counter and said simply, "We're okay now, Mom." I looked at her, hair tied up, eyes bright, no longer the worried child who once worked weekends to buy notebooks. just a girl growing up in peace. I opened the cabinet and took out an old bottle of red wine. Just a little, I said, not to celebrate the past, but to toast the future. Harper clinked her glass of juice and laughed. I think the greatest victory is when we can laugh right here, in the same kitchen that once knew tears. Sometimes victory doesn't come with fireworks. It's the sound of a small laugh echoing in a kitchen that once tasted sorrow. Sunday morning, I brewed coffee and opened the window. The early sunlight streamed through the curtains, painting golden streaks on the wooden floor. The apartment was still, but not the empty kind of stillness. I sat down and wrote in my worn notebook. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past, but it makes the future less frightening. Across the table, Harper was working on her essay. Soft music played, the scratch of her pen, the chirping of birds on the balcony. The world moved gently, like a breath no longer rushed. I looked up. Out the window, clear sky, soft wind, and a morning like any other. It was still Tuesday, but life had turned a new page. I once thought justice was where a story ends, but now, looking back, I understand justice is only where we begin again. For the first time, in silence, on the table, my notebook lay open to its final page. I wrote a simple line. Not everyone deserves our return, but we always deserve our own peace. Outside the window, the morning light poured in slow, gentle, with no need to prove anything. And in that light, I realized, sometimes, silence itself is proof that the heart has been mended. If you're hearing these words, maybe you, too, have lost something, a person, a belief, or a part of yourself. I just want you to know, silence is not weakness. It's the sign of a soul that has finally understood it no longer needs to prove anything. Some pains never disappear, but they stop frightening us, because every scar is a reminder that we survived. And we're still here stronger, brighter, and more real than ever. You're not alone in your hurt. We're all just learning how to carry it without letting it pull us down anymore. If you've stayed with me this far, thank you for listening not only to my story, but to your own story, reflected in every breath, every light, every crack. Don't forget, every time we dare to speak the truth, some part of this world becomes a little kinder. Hit like and subscribe, so I can share more stories that hold meaning and hope for your life. Have a beautiful day.